Before we begin the open mic portion of the evening, I have a special message from Lee Wellahan. Lee?
Cherry Valley-Springfield backs Governor Cuomo to attend our school, and we are not alone. Now I would like to invite anyone who wishes to speak to respectfully say what you wish to the Governor himself on stage.
Just a few rules for the open mic. First of all, this is not a formal question and answer session. Mr. Stewart said that he would definitely answer a few questions if you had them for him directly. Other questions, please reserve for the people who want to ask for after the program. Secondly, try to keep your comments appropriate for our audience. We have an audience from small children to whoever. Remember who you're speaking to. Please make your comments about 2 minutes or less so that everyone has a chance to speak. I'm going to be sitting in the front row. If we start getting a little too long, I might tell you to speed it up a little bit. Also, to keep the flow moving fairly well, there's 6 empty seats here in the front row. If you want to speak, please make your way towards the front, have a seat in one of those seats. So when the person in front of you is done, you can just step up quickly, and then we can keep it moving really fast so that we can keep the program rolling. The only other thing we ask for is that everybody be polite to everyone else. Respond is fine, but if you don't like what they say, keep it to yourself, please. It's their chance for their own opinions to be made. Do I have someone who would like to be the first speaker?
I've been an educator for 30 years. It's disheartening what is happening in education. It's obvious we have lost what's most important, and that's educating the whole child. The focus on the test and its high stakes, the increase of mandate, and the lack of funding has forced school districts to shape, cut, and restructure programs such as the arts. These programs are crucial to stimulating, enriching, nurturing, and developing the whole child. The new Common Core standards in the 21st century skill require children to become creative, critical thinkers that can collaborate and work well with others. The arts naturally engage our children in a higher order of thinking. Through the creative processes, our children are problem solving, developing ideas, designing, and creating products. Through critical analysis and critiquing strategies, our children are able to express themselves orally and through the written word. These are the experiences that school districts often or eliminate due to lack of time and money. If we are to become, once again, a country that leads and is in the forefront of innovation, we need to educate the whole child. We need to offer experiences to allow our children to be creative, critical thinkers who are not afraid to think outside the box.
Not only will the programs at our home schools suffer, but our occupational programs will suffer. The number of students who will be able to attend these programs will decrease, which in turn will hurt the funding for these programs even more. I have learned so much from having the opportunity to attend this program. I have learned that culinary is what I truly want to pursue. I have received business level certifications that would take a couple of years to receive out of college. I have also learned the value of my hard work. The program gives us the chance to experience different career lines. It also allows us to find who we want to be. It teaches us basic and more advanced job skills that everyone should know. They teach us how to maintain a professional composure in any situation, and they teach us how to be better citizens of our communities. So I want you all to think about this. If the number of students who can attend these programs become limited, how many students will lose the chance to learn good work ethic? How many students will lose the opportunity to jumpstart their future how many students will never get the chance to see how much potential they have to learn so many skills that will help them with a brighter future.
Welcome everyone. My name is I am 17 years old and I'm currently a high school senior at Cherry Valley-Springfield Central School. I also attend the Career Technical Education Program Building Trades at OAOC BOCES in Milford, New York. And I'm going to speak about how the decrease of funding in education in New York not only affects schools but also CTE programs. At a young age, we are often asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Some children will say a firefighter, a police officer, an astronaut. BOCES gives these children an opportunity to realize their goals. The BOCES CTE program can help teens discover what hidden talents they may have and can give them an opportunity to receive authentic workplace training while still in high school. My argument is simply that a decrease in funding would not be as helpful as the state may think it could be. Because if just one student doesn't have the opportunity to attend a CTE program, that's one less brilliant career that the world could have had. One less chef that may have cooked someone their last meal. One less mechanic that could have fixed your car. One less infotech student that could have designed a generation's next cell phone. One less nurse that could have saved someone's life. Or one less carpenter that built the home of someone important to you, or the shelter of our soldiers in foreign lands. So let's not darken the bright futures of so many, and instead make it possible for the future to grow and for the world to change.
Hello everyone, I'm Wade Blanchard. I am privileged to be a science teacher here at Cherry Valley-Springfield Central School. I'd like to talk to you about charter schools. This is my 26th year of teaching, 16 wonderful years here at Cherry Valley, and I've taught in a lot of different schools, including private schools. So when charter schools came up, I actually thought there was no big deal. To be honest with you, I thought it was just another type of private school. Then I went and took a look at them a little bit closer. These aren't schools, they're businesses. They're businesses that are run with your tax dollars. And like a good business, they're looking for a good opportunity to grow, to develop a new place. And under one proposal, that might be made easier through aiding it from the state, providing state aid for the building of these charter schools. And up here, I thought, being up here in upstate New York, this is not really a big deal for us because most of the charter schools are in the big cities. But when you look at it from a business perspective, land is cheap here, and if we aid it, it becomes even cheaper. So let's say, for argument's sake, we put a school in Milford, a charter school in Milford. The maximum distance you can bus a student in New York State is 50 miles. In Milford, they would be able to pull from just about every school district in Otsego County. And that transportation would be provided by the local school district. That's your tax money that would provide the transportation to take the student to that charter school. When that student goes to a charter school, they take up to $9,000 of state aid with them. So let's say, for argument's sake, 10 kids from Cherry Valley go to a charter school, this charter school is going to build in Milford. That's $90,000. That's a teacher for 10 kids. Charter schools are not required to live by the same rules that we are required to live by. They get to pick their students. So if those students that we send to this charter school in Milford are a disciplinary problem, are diagnosed with a learning disability, or just the charter decides they generally can't meet the needs of that student, they can return that student to the local school district. But the money doesn't go with it. The money stays with the charter. All right? The charter is also not required to live by the same rules in terms of reserve fund. Our school gets to roughly keep about 4% of its operating budget as a reserve fund. Now, earlier this month, 30-odd charter schools in New York City closed their doors and shipped their students up to Albany for a rally at the cost of $50,000, again, of your taxpayer money. At the same time, they were sitting on a combined reserve fund of $250 million. We do not need to increase the number of charter schools, which incidentally, the governor wants to go from 460 to 560, and we aren't even meeting the 460 now. We don't even have 460 charter schools in New York State today. We don't need to increase that number. What we need is more transparency, and what we need is for these charter schools to live by the same rules that we have.
Good evening. My name is Eric Hansen. I'm a teacher at Cherry Valley-Springfield Central School, as well as a father of 2 children. And 3 years ago, I also had the privilege to teach 5th grade here in Cherry Valley-Springfield. I'd like to thank the superintendent and the CVS Faculty Association for organizing this evening's event. I'd also like to thank you, Senator Stewart, for coming, taking time out of your busy life. And personally, thank you for meeting with my 2 daughters this past Friday as well. Honestly, I probably would never have spoken at a public event such as this in the past. For the most part, though, I may not have always agreed with everything that occurred in public education. I believe that the best interests of students are at the center of public education policy. This is no longer the case, however. It is becoming more and more apparent every day that a hidden agenda exists in certain political and corporate interests that deny what is best for children. I've been so inspired by the many parents, teachers, and administrators who have stepped forward to voice their concerns. In general, I have faith in humankind. I believe in the hard work that our selected leaders conduct and empathize with the difficult position that they are often in. I've become increasingly more and more agitated, however, by the eroding policies moving through public education. Of course, as a teacher, I'm concerned over the future of my profession. But so much more, I'm terrified for the system being vertically put in place by a regime that shows no regard for the well-being of our children. 5 years ago, the grade 3 through 8 state assessments were created by educators in New York and released in their entirety following their admission. The detailed item analysis indicating student strengths and deficiencies. We now receive a vague number, a data point, from a test created by a large corporation, Pearson, that does little to nothing to improve student instruction. The value-added model used by the New York State Education Department to determine the student's growth score, as well as the teacher's growth score, is not available for public review, and even the American Statistical Association has recommended that value-added models have significant limitation and should not be used for high-stakes purposes for students, teachers, or schools. As many have stated, the current New York State grade 3 through 8 ELA and math assessments are critically flawed. I believe that true accountability exists not in a corporate-created test that is quarantined from public eyes due to copyright privileges and profit motivations. True accountability exists in a situation in which we look those we are responsible for in the eyes daily. For teachers, that is the parents, and even more importantly, the students that we work with. It is easy to criticize from afar and keep accountability as a data point that can be manipulated for the whims of a political or corporate agenda. It is much more effective to have accountability on a local and personal level, with performance examined on a continuous basis and true differentiated instruction created by individuals who know the students and their families. These past 2 months have opened my eyes to how blindly I have recently been moving through my profession, losing sight of what should always be at the center. What is best for the education of children? We may not all agree on every policy or political position that exists in our country, nor should we. That is what makes democracy great. But I think we all agree that the children of our communities are our country's future. They deserve the best education that can be provided. Our children need a complete, well-rounded education to prepare them for a multitude of scenarios that await them. Our children need us to begin examining more closely what motivations exist behind plans and policies concerning education. Our children need us to start questioning private interests infiltrating public education. Our children need us to fight against policies that are in opposition to the true and complete education of children. And most essential of all, our children need all decisions made in this state and then in this nation concerning education to have their best interests in mind.
Hello, my name is Savannah Stockton. I'm a senior at CBS and I have a passion for English. My biggest concern is what will happen if Governor Cuomo doesn't give our school and many others the money he owes. It would be devastating to the community and the school. In a forced merger or centralized high school, I would be crushed because I want the younger students to experience what great teachers we have. The English teachers I have had over the years have helped me excel in a subject I once hated but now truly loved.
I'm a school board member from here at Cherry Valley-Springfield. I'm also a parent. And I've got one thing to say. Please go tell our governor this. Keep in mind, our children are our future. And our schools are our future. So please stop messing with our kids' future.
My name is Cherry, and I'm an alumni here, which I'm no good still at public speaking, obviously. I had no intention of coming up here tonight, but listening to everybody, I felt it was important for me to say me. I cannot test, I still cannot test. And if it was not for my teachers when I came here, I would not be the person I am today. Mrs. Adams, you were my coach. I didn't do art, but you brought me through and taught me how to be who I needed to be. You're why I choose to help softball when I need to. Mr. Lamoret, you with math just I was stationed in Latham, New York when I was in the military for 8 years. Everybody always asks me, why don't you move up to Albany? Why don't you move closer? It'd be an easier travel. And I always gave them the same answer. I want my 3 kids to go to where I went to school, where it was small, where the teachers remembered you, where it didn't matter, they just helped you. Everybody knows everybody's name. I can go down the street and everybody knows, and you wave, and everybody's a family. It's not just community here. It is so important for me to keep my 3 kids here. I have 2 kids that have learning disabilities, and Mrs. Georgie, I just keep such great care of my two kids. Jillian is my oldest. She is amazing, but she also has trouble testing. And when she gets her tests back from last year, she cried for days because she didn't get a high score when she has a 93 average. What does that tell you? How can she have a 93 grade point average in class but get a tier level 1? It makes no sense to me at all.
That will be stripped from them if we allow state testing to take place. For those of you know me, and I like things to be fair. I am not opposed to testing. I'm not opposed to our kids facing challenges that they're going to have to learn to navigate through, because this is the rest of their life. We're here to teach them to be adults, to be responsible, accountable. And at first, last year when my daughter took the testing, I was not against that. I thought, you know what, there's going to be hard things that we have to deal with in our life going forward. And if this is one of them, you're going to read it, you're going to meet it head on, you're going to do the best that you can, and we're going to move on. Since then, I have spoken to a lot of people. I've gone to a lot of informational sessions. I've educated myself so that I can best serve my kids, which is my job. It's not their job. It's not their job to have to deal with this. It's not their job to be afraid if they don't do well on a test that it's going to hurt their teacher, who I don't know any of us in this room that can stand here and say that they didn't respect and love their teachers, especially in the elementary and middle school grades. Such pressure to teach to a test. And I don't believe in my heart that the lower grades are safe or the higher grades are any safer. And I believe strongly that this is only the beginning with math and like English language arts. This is going to transfer into science, into social studies. Our kids are going to be tested for a month straight. Probably more than that, for hours at a time, to come through it, demoralized, exhausted, mentally damaged from the stress of having to take a test, that they're afraid that if they don't do well on, either their school is going to close or their teacher is no longer going to be there when they show up in the fall, and it's going to be their fault. Elected with funds from a hedge fund that backed charter schools. Now it's time for the governor to pay them back. And he's going to do that to set up these tests that we will fail. He is setting up our schools to fail so that charter schools can come in and locally we will have no control over what takes place with our kids
who the teachers are, and how the experiences of our children's lives are shaped. We as a community need to stand together. We need to stand up and make a stand against the test for now. I do believe that needs to be state testing. I do believe our children need to be challenged because we live in a challenging world that is ever-changing and more competitive. This is not the way, however, at this point in time. And the only way that we can make a change is if we stand up, stand together, stand proud as a community, and opt out of distance testing.
My name is Savannah. I have two children here at Cherry Valley. Me and my sister both went to school here and grew up here. I moved to Florida when I was 12, in Daytona Beach for 12 years, going to school with the best guys between 150, maybe 130 at that time. I moved back here mainly because I want my kids to have the opportunity that I had here at Cherry Valley. And this place is like no other. My kids, this is home to them. Their teachers show true compassion and love for their kids. And I don't want that taken away from them. Is there a mic? I don't need a mic. I was out in the hallway as a greeter, and it was heartwarming to see so many people walking in and showing their support for our school. I'm Amy Harrison. I'm a school nurse here. I have worked here for 33 years, and I found out I've always been very proud to be a school nurse at Cherry Valley-Springfield. I started at Cherry Valley, and in '89, I was with Keith. I was here. I was here when Carl Schrader was here. I was here when there was a military band, a Marine Corps band in 1989 playing on our steps out there because it was a huge thing that we were a merged district. And, you know, Maggie asked me to say something, and I'm not really great at speaking. I always have my cue cards, and I get nervous and my knees knock. But one thing I am is a fighter. And one thing I will fight for is Cherry Valley-Springfield. To everyone's speech with tears in my eyes and love in my heart. And when Debbie spoke, I cried. And when April spoke, I cried. And David, when you spoke, I was like, wow, you know, we have amazing kids here. And Olivia, I love you. You're a great speaker too. Olivia. But what I really wanted to say, Debbie struck me when she said kids need to play, and that's exactly what I was going to say. I see students every day. I see from pre-K to 12th grade every day, in and out of my office all day long. Never think the school nurse just sits there doing nothing. One of the things that I hear from kindergarten, first and second graders, and this has only been maybe the last 3, 4, 5 years, is I miss pre-K. And I'll say, well, why do you miss pre-K? I miss playing. And when you have a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old telling you that they miss playing when that's exactly what they're supposed to be doing, it breaks your heart. So, to parents out there, your kids need to play. That's how they learn. That's how they grow. That's how they developmentally go into the person they're supposed to be, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. They need to play. They don't need to be taking tests. And I know we've been told we can't talk about that, but as a school nurse and a professional, you need to think about that. I also see the kids that come in with stomach aches and headaches and are crying because they can't take a test, because they're afraid to take a test. So your school nurse sees a lot, and she feels a lot, and she loves all your students. So, you are parents. You have precious little commodities. They're beautiful children. Take care of them. And Mr. Cuomo, I'm not sure, and I should know this. When all this stuff started coming around in January, I started looking up what assemblymen were, what senators were, Senator Stewart, because I voted for you. And what Congress people are, and it got so confusing, and I thought, well, how many years does he have in office? Can you tell me that? Yeah. Right, but does he get just 3 more years, or does he get to run again after 4 years? There's no term limit? Well, who said over here that the people under 18 need to be good voters, and that you need to vote him out? She said she had 3 daughters, and they weren't numbers, and they had names. Well, I have 3 daughters, and they have graduated proudly from Cherry Valley-Springfield. They're bright, they're beautiful. 2 of them have masters in education or teaching, one at a college, one at a nearby Richfield Springs. And my 3rd daughter is graduating with their bachelors, and their names are Celia, Bethany, and Mallory. And they graduated from Cherry Valley-Springfield Central School.
I am 16 years old. I've been going to Cherry Valley for my whole life now. And there's one thing I know is how to take a test. And today, there's a lot of things that can affect the test. You know? It's not just, oh, did you study? Did you know the subject? Like if your dog died, you know, You just have to get the right mental state to take the test. A lot of things can affect that. The dog can die. You can have a hot date with your girlfriend. A bunch of different things. And if you judge someone on just one test score, you're not gonna find out who they really are. And for the big charter schools, Mr. Blanchard, I don't know exactly what they are, but if they're big, right, Mr. Blanchard? like big class size and stuff?
They vary.
Well, today I took an English test, and I was struggling with it on a couple problems. Miss Valentino was, gave it all English. But I feel like in big schools or charter schools, without the personal connection there, would I be able to do as well in English, social studies, math, science, as well I am now. So if this does happen, and that personal connection between teachers and students aren't there, but students aren't going to do as well.
Hi, my name is Steve Webster, and I'm a senior here at Cherry Valley. For all of my life, I've struggled with testing. I get anxious and freak out and forget everything that I learned. And I hate to see younger kids with the same problem that I have, to get put down after taking a test because they failed, but all of their friends did in the past. And it breaks my heart that I went through that. And I'm so lucky that I have the teachers here that help me go through this. They never gave up on me. They didn't care that I failed the test, but they knew that I was learning and they never gave up on me. And I'm so happy that I'm graduating from this school. And I'm so proud of my school, especially for doing this and accomplishing all I have had. I'm so glad to be from this school.
I know there's a few other people who would like to speak here. We have to keep moving on, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to give you a final message. For those of you who are wondering who the guy with the black shirt walking around is, I'm not a bouncer. I am actually Dave Lamory. I teach mathematics here, but I'm kind of a history buff. And a couple things that come to my mind from all the people that have spoken tonight, there's kind of a common word that we have not ever heard. It's called socialism. If you don't know what socialism is, it's when state controls everything you do. And can the state socialize education in New York? Do you think it's possible? Well, there's 3 steps needed to socialize education. The first step is the state controls what you teach. We have a core curriculum. They tell us what to teach. Step 1 is complete. Step 2, the state controls who teaches your children. If Mr. Como, Governor Como, gets his way, he would have control at the state level of all hiring and firing of teachers by using an invalid, unreliable test to make those decisions. And the third step, quite simply, is decide where your children are taught. Again, if Governor Como gets his way, he would have us in charter schools or large regional forced merge schools run by the BOCES. Anybody know who operates the BOCES? The superintendent there does not work for the taxpayers. He works for the state. How far are we really from socialized education if the Governor Como gets his way? For those of you who don't know me, I just retired from the military after 30 plus years in the U.S. Army. I fought overseas for our country in our way of life. What I was not fighting for was socialism. I was fighting for democracy.
What does democracy look like?
This is what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
What does democracy look like?
This is what democracy looks like.